Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for providing me with this opportunity to speak at such a large in such a large group. This is fantastic. I did not know that we'll have so many people actually attending. I've done various talks at various places, including colleges and whatnot, live or through Zoom or through Google Meet. But this is the first time I'm actually seeing my Zoom saying one of 3 pages, which is that 3 pages worth of boxes over there, and my Zoom is kind of, I think, zoomed out so badly that I think each page has like 50 or 30 names over there. So it's fantastic. And I see participants as 117, keeping two of us aside, 115 participants. I'm just thrilled and excited. In fact, I've just messaged my team also saying that, wow, I am speaking at a place where we have so many people. Right. Okay, so let me just dive into a little bit of small introduction so that we all are on the same page, and then we'll dive into what really we're going to talk about and essentially the manner in which we can sort of communicate. Right. You're already aware of my name, Dipesh. I am, I'm basically from Mumbai, but I've been I stay in Singapore. I've been a Singapore resident for now almost a decade. I came here for work purposes and then just continued doing multiple things, and now I'm sort of based out of Singapore itself. Correctly mentioned, I am a chartered accountant by academic qualification. I graduated or finished my chartered accountancy in the year 2009. And chartered accountancy has this wonderful thing that you can start working as an intern somewhere and sort of build your career before you finish your sort of chartered accountancy course. So I started working in the field of international tax law in 2006, and I was lucky to sort of get an opportunity to work with some really renowned lawyers or international tax people in India. So I did that for about 11 years and then jumped into blockchain. The only slight connection between my previous life and so-called developer life is that during the days when I was a chartered accountant, I, for some reason, fell in love with just doing a lot of iPhone or Android jailbreaking stuff. So I would just basically understand the software, try to break it. And most of the stuff was already written online. So I would just follow the instructions, and slowly, my hands started getting more dirty with understanding code and understanding operating level softwares. And then in 2016, I got introduced to the concept of, Ethereum, and then blockchain in general, and smart contract. And I was like, wow, contracts, okay, automating a lot of things, and seems to be a nice place to build a career. I was like, if I have to make it big in my life, I need to, this seems to be the right opportunity, and I jumped onto it. And it's now 7 years into this Ethereum or blockchain ecosystem. I think comically or colloquially, you can say a lot of people refer to me as OG, or what they call the, I don't know, original generation. I actually don't even know the full form. But I funnily get called as OG in places because of my long experience in this industry. Right. So after diving into smart contracts, I've done multiple things that I'm not going to talk much about that, but essentially created some companies.
Hello. Participants, can you hear me, or there was some disconnect, some break in voice? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, fine. So is Mr. Dipesh Sukhani audible to you?
No. There is some issue with...
There was some break in his voice. Yes, anyway, in these programs, sometimes we have to deal with this. Please bear with us. Over to you, Mr. Sukhani.
Yeah, thank you. So just let me know in case I don't be audible at any point of time, or there's something. I'll just go quickly check my sound settings, because yeah, I'll not be surprised at times. It's because I'm using a wired headphones, and what happens, they're away from my mouth. And then thanks. Okay, so just trying to catch up. I now work into the security field. Basically, I'm building a tool which helps uh, in identifying what is wrong inside the smart contracts before it goes live. All of this terms we will be touching about, but that's what today I focus on. So BuildBear Labs is basically creating an engine to automate testing as such. Right. Let me share my screen because it's a small slide slide deck that I've prepared, and then we can talk about that. Right. Okay. Just trying to minimize the Zoom related stuff. Okay. Cool. Please, can any of you guys just confirm to me that the slide is properly visible and there's no issues with that?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Fantastic. Thanks. Thanks, Neelam. Right. Okay. So the topic that I am going to talk about is Ethereum blockchain, smart contracts, and then blockchain as a platform. This is the exact verbatim of what you would have seen in the agenda as well. So we'll be going through them, but not exactly in the same order. Of kind of unfortunately taken the liberty of tweaking up a little bit order. As I go through, it's typical for me to do a dialogue-based kind of a presentation. And what I mean by that is I don't want to just be a monologue delivery over here. So as the slides go through, people will have questions. Do not hesitate to ask that. I'm not sure if you guys have the permission to unmute yourself or talk. And honestly, with such a large crowd, maybe it might be difficult. But the meeting chat is right now up on my screen. It's there. I will try and address the questions as I see them. Right. For me, it's simple. I don't want to say that please ask your questions at the end or when I ask you to ask me the question. So I think if you have a question, it's instantly good enough to just drop the question and have it answered. The brain should function smoothly. Right.
The participants can raise their hands because it's a large audience, so
right.
Difficult to maintain this. They can raise their hands and they can write on the chat box. Both are possible. Thank you.
Fantastic. Right. Okay, so I've kind of jumped up a little bit. First, I'm going to talk about blockchain as a platform. Then I'm going to talk about the Ethereum blockchain, and then I'm going to talk about smart contracts. Okay. The one theme that I would like to just kind of make sure that all of us are on the same page before we dive into is that the entire presentation is kept simple, right? And I unfortunately feel the need to clarify this is because you will have a lot of material either available online or other presentations or YouTube and so on. So I've seen people complicate this topic a lot, which is okay. It's actually a technically complicated piece of work, but for presentation purposes, for talking purposes, I think it's no point for anyone to show off their technical skill sets, right? It's a mathematical problem that people have solved it in various mechanisms. But for the discussion about what blockchain is trying to do at a larger level, the idea is to keep it simple. So if you come across that either it's too simple, then it's a conscious call. If you come across that it is good enough for me to understand, then please be mindful that as you dive further into this world of Web3, as we call it, it gets a little difficult and you must be prepared for that. Okay, now before I dive into blockchain, I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about Bitcoin. And there's a particular reason why I want to talk about Bitcoin, but that also I'll be taking through the slides, right? So this screen, so diagram that you see on your screen essentially talks about how Alice is sending money to Bob pre-Bitcoin era. And Bitcoin started in somewhere 2008, 2009. So let's talk about this presentation or this particular slide deck or this particular flow of transfer of money holds true 100% even today, and it was 100% the only option available before 2008, how Alice was sending money to Bob. Locally or internationally through SWIFT, through Bank of New York or Bank of America or through RBI or whatever means, there is always a simple mechanism. Alice has to instruct a particular bank to be able to do a transfer between A to B, right? Now, honestly, UPI makes it a little easy, and hence you might say that, okay, we have appropriate dent in the diagram, but underlying, no, there's still central custodians of the money, which is, you can talk about any bank over here, who are actually the custodian of your money. They are, let's say, money keepers, and that's how these transfers really happen. Now, to put it from a technical point of view, really what happens is that there are these databases which actually start talking to each other, and they are spread across the world, but basically just update their own balances. So if I have to, let's say, send money to Shah Rukh Khan in India, what's going to happen is that the database of my Singapore bank account is going to update itself. And really what's going to happen is that they're going to use Swift more likely, which means they'll have to update the Bank of New York over here, and then Bank of New York has to then further update Shah Rukh Khan's India bank account, and so on and so forth. So basically, we're updating a lot of databases across the world for me to just send money to Shah Rukh Khan in India, right? And that is where essentially the problem statement is. If I have to put the word problem statement over there, there is a very heavy reliance on centralized databases. And that's how typically Web 2 is function, right? Essentially, you have a lot of databases, you have your backends which are actually talking to each other, or there's communication between them through API calls or through multiple other protocols. And that's what's happening. We are just basically relying on servers from point A to point B to make sure something happens. That's what Bitcoin kind of solved. In a very simple mechanism, what really happened is that Bitcoin enabled for Alice to send money to Bob directly. There is literally, colloquially or very simply put, no centralized server which actually makes sure this happen. And that's what essentially Bitcoin's theme was. I don't want to rely on particular database or particular server to be able to deliver my message, right? Now, again, going a little bit sort of deeper into the Bitcoin thing, what essentially happens is that Alice sends a message to a network, and we'll come to what network and how it is connected and what really happening, but it sends a message to a network, and that network actually informs Bob that Alice has sent you something. It can be what we in my example say Bitcoin, it can be a message that hi Bob, or how are you doing, or whatever it is, but essentially a network which is communicating this message. Now obviously if you're very particular about how things are happening, and you're sort of really pedantic about I want to just get my hands dirty and understand this in depth, you would say that, well, in the Web 2 era we still have centralized servers. In Web 3 you're talking about so-called network, then it doesn't seem to be so much of a difference, right? So there is a little bit difference that comes about from this slide. Essentially, Alice, when she actually sends a message to a receiver, there's a lot of encryption that happens over here, and these encryptions are based on open source code. Everything is pretty much available for anyone to audit, or sort of create your own encryption sort of scripts on top of them. Essentially, a particular message is encrypted by Alice, and then it is sent to the recipient, in this case Bob, through a particular algorithm, which, because of this encryption algorithm, can only be either decoded, you can think about, between the sender and the receiver. The network over here is just, so to say, a proxy. That is the first difference, if I have to bring about, between the Web 2 world and Web 3 world. The network is just a postman, so to say. It really does not have any other intelligence of what really is happening. And that's what Bitcoin did. Bitcoin basically created a network which basically eliminates one single or a couple of databases to rely on to be able to transfer money between two people. The transactions will basically be executed over a network, and that network is decentralized, and that network has no rights on that particular message. Bitcoin, which started in 2008 and became somewhere a little bit of a big thing into 2012, 2013, threw a major limelight on blockchain. It is interestingly funny that even 2023, which is 10 years after when Bitcoin became financially a coin, people still believe that Bitcoin is blockchain, or blockchain is just Bitcoin. But in honesty, Bitcoin is only one piece of technology which uses blockchain. And there is a very big distinction between Bitcoin and blockchain. And there's a very big distinction between Web3 and blockchain. This is the fun fact slide, and this diagram, which I can hopefully through a PDF I can send across to you guys, is basically Bitcoin actually puts in place, or in my own words, is a fantastic dish which uses a lot of ingredients, which actually was starting to see signs in back in 1995, pretty much at the start of internet. The start of internet was somewhere around 1992, 1993, and around 1995, papers or white papers of different technology was coming in place, and all of that were culminated to create a fantastic dish, which is known as Bitcoin, one that has been successful, or one of the most successful blockchain products till date. Right. So before I dive into now blockchain alone, and now just trying to distinguish, make it, take it away from Bitcoin and give its own identity, I'll just pause over here. If anyone has any question, obviously raise your hands or drop into the chat message. I would like to address them. Else I'll just proceed in what blockchain is. Okay. So I'm glad I'm doing a fantastic job. That we don't have any problem right now. Okay, just give me a second, just arranging these Zoom related hovering boxes in my thing. Yeah. Okay. So what is blockchain? It's a decentralized digital ledger of records across a network of computers in a secure and transparent manner. This is the theoretical answer. It's somewhere you can say that this is the chat GPT answer, or it's, just Google it up and this is what comes into blockchain definition by Google, so on and so forth. But that's not what I'm going to talk about, right? I'm going to hopefully be able to break it down so that you understand this concept in a simple fashion. First, blockchain is literally just a chain of blocks. The construction of blockchain, or if you ever have the opportunity, there is a sort of a online course available to create your own blockchain using Python, or some more of them. You'll come to the same conclusion, which is basically at the end of the day, blockchain just is taking a lot of messages, and messages over here can be anything like hi, what's up, or good morning, something like that. Putting them, tying them on with a thread, what we call block. Then there are obviously rules in how you want to tie and how it has to be verified and all that thing. But then what we're trying to do is just putting them in something what we call the block, and then just arranging it from point A to point B, or in a chronological order, which you can otherwise think of timestamps. So if I have to send a message good morning, and then someone else sends a message good evening, it's just according to time, arranging them in a particular chain is what is blockchain. Right? There's a network and how it is decentralized and what's the protection over there, what's the algorithm. Everything is later. But first, theoretical theme is very simple. Blockchain must have a chronology, point number one. Point number two, it has to just be of blocks, which is culmination or tying up things, or concatenation, if you loosely can use that word, of transactions or messages and put them together. That is what a network does. Right. On the left-hand side of the screen, which is centralized, is essentially you can think about what Web2 is, right? There are multiple people or participants, or so to say, branches of, say, let's say a bank, talking to a centralized server and understanding what's really happening, so on and so forth. And this particular central intermediary is, let's say, otherwise known as the honeypot, which is basically controlling everything happening across different branches. In the decentralized world, what really happens is that each node is providing information to the other node. And that's what literally every node is talking. In my first couple of slides, when I talked about when Alice is sending a message to a network, that is what this network is. She has to, let's say, send me a Bitcoin, then she's actually encrypting the message about XYZ, then sending that encrypted message, which is very difficult to understand, to the network. And anyone from the network, which is node 1, node 3, node 5, node 6, can just pick it up. And if they verify the message that it is correctly done so, according to the rules of the protocol, they will just communicate to every single other node in the network. And once that is done, the network just proceeds, so on and so forth. Obviously, it's a mathematical problem. Because how do you confirm this? Because there's sort of encryption involved and cryptography. How do you update all the nodes, so and so in a particular time frame? All that later, but that's what essentially under the hood happens. If you today were to actually do any transaction on any blockchain network, that is what's going to happen. In fact, there are tools which actually can show you what will happen with your message. Like when you send the message, which particular node in the network picked up your message, how much time did it take for them to confirm whether this particular transaction or message is correctly encrypted, and how much time did it take for them to communicate to the entire network, and how much time did the network take to verify that yes, we are all on the same page. Coming to a little bit on the rules of how these basically tie up. And this is a little important, so I'm diving a little deep over here for you to understand why blockchain is otherwise termed as secure. Right? Now, block one is essentially just, if you see over here, transactions, right? There's an empty hash over here. There's something known as proof of work, and then there's just the heading, which is block one. So imagine blue boxes are nothing but just the names of the boxes, and we don't really sort of pay much attention to them. The others are where a lot of things start changing. A miner, which is otherwise today known as one who confirms the transactions, or a block, essentially has to generate what we call the proof of work. In simple sense, it's just a number. Now, this number is basically a number which will, according to a particular algorithm, confirm that these transactions are correctly put in order. That's what this is. And that's what is called as mining. That's what's called as proof of work. That's what's called as the mining reward. Now, once this is done, there is again a number which is generated, which I can call the hash, which goes into the root of the next block, and then the chain continues. The reason why a particular blockchain, or for that matter, any blockchain, is considered to be secure or safe is because at any point of time, the network cannot be disturbed, which means today, if there are 500,000 blocks already done, I do not have the power to go and change block number 10, 11, or whatever so be, right? For monitoring or tweaking with any particular transaction, saying that no, I didn't get 500, but I got like say 500,000 Bitcoin or something, right? Because the root will change, the hash will change, and the entire network will identify that this is a wrong transaction. It does not tie up with what we are computing, and hence throw away this transaction. So the network is self-regulating. There's no one who can control it. It is considered that if you have the power to sort of control 70% of the blockchain nodes or the network, then you have the ability to sort of tweak a lot of things. But considering the computing power that a particular protocol takes, in here in my example of Bitcoin and Ethereum, it is so high that possibly all the servers put in together of power of Google and Amazon and AWS and Netflix or whatever it is, yet they are not able to come to that strength or that level of difficulty required to manipulate the blockchain. And hence it is considered that it is highly secure. No centralized entities or even together have that much power to manipulate blockchain. I'm going to talk about certain pillars of blockchain, which really is, let's say, the definition of what is considered as a secure blockchain. The reason why I'm talking about these pillars is because creating a blockchain is not that difficult, honestly. Some of you over here will actually, hopefully, endeavor to create your own blockchain. And there are certain pillars that the world accepts for it to be an acceptable blockchain and for them to actually start using or doing the messages or transaction through this network. First, it's immutable, which means once the network mines a particular block or a transaction is set in stone, unfortunately or fortunately, no one will ever have the power to go and change anything in it. Second, cryptography. Now, here, what we're essentially trying to highlight is everything in that message is secure by the encryption mechanism that it adopts. What really it means is that if I am sending a message to anyone over here in the call, then no one otherwise should be able to open it and see it. If I'm sort of threading the air, sort of stretching the envelope, this is true today, with you will see with a lot of these messaging protocols that we all of us follow, which is Zoom, WhatsApp, and so on and so forth. It'll actually say that your message is encrypted end to end. This was not the case a couple of years back. If you go back history in time, WhatsApp never had that notification. Is because at one point of time, their messaging was totally open. Today, they have an encryption key, which is linked to the device that you're using from. And what they're trying to say is that if you use WhatsApp, no one in the world will be able to do it because only you who encrypts the message sends out this encrypted message. We just see bytes, which is zeros and ones. And then to whomever you're sending, it is a key which is associated with that. They are able to unlock it, and their device will be able to read the message. That's how they sort of also use the encryption. This is just a common theme across all messaging because a lot of people had issues with government or US government being able to read a message and so on and so forth. Third pillar is the decentralized part. Here we're saying is that it has to be a completely decentralized or a very large network. Now, I'm just going to be more pedantic about this point. There are some blockchain networks, when you go and dive deeper, and all of this information is, by the way, public, you'll come to conclusion that, okay, this particular blockchain is controlled by only 10 nodes in the world. And these 10 nodes belong to probably one centralized entity or something like a bank or something like that. And then you start questioning, wait, then is this decentralized enough? And that's an important pillar of a blockchain. The nodes must be completely unrelated because anyone, as I mentioned, has the power to control approximately 70% of the nodes. They have the ability to manipulate transaction, how they're supposed to be bundled, how they're supposed to be encrypted, how they're supposed to be sent across. Right. I'll come to the question that is there right now, which is last one, consensus. Now, following the thread from point number 3, which is decentralized, what I mean is that, let's say I'm running a particular blockchain, or let's say this call is particular through a decentralized network. What essentially is mean that I am running an independent node and you guys are running an independent node. And then eventually what's going to happen is that these nodes need to talk to each other because that's what a network does. How does a network come to a conclusion or a consensus that this message has to be in line number 20, this message has to be in line number 21, so on and so forth? These are all programmatically done. No one needs to really manually today, sort of does that. There's just a protocol level rule defined that the network will reach a conclusion in or a consensus in a particular rule. And that's what is known as the consensus mechanism. These 4 pillars really, and obviously there is no scientific rule book. I'm sure if you Google up or ask, someone will say there are 20 pillars and someone will say 2 are important, the others are not. Again, it's a choice. These are just general rules based on the largest blockchains used today. Private blockchains at times do not have a particular consensus algorithm, sometimes don't have encryption requirement, so on and so forth. So everyone is as such free and flexible. There's a question by Mahesh which says, can a miner decrypt a message? Okay, now Mahesh, the thing over here is that every message that is sent across on the particular network is signed by what we call the private key. And then there is a public key which decodes the message. Parts of the message are supposed to be public. There's no fancy thing over here. So a miner, for that matter, or other algorithms in the world can actually decode and just read part of the message, which is okay. Certain part of the message can be chosen to be completely encrypted with a particular key, and that unfortunately will make it only visible or decrypted by the public key to which it is assigned to. Think of it as, someone gave me this very simple example, though I at times do not connect with it so much. But in this case, think about it as me dropping a message or a letter in your post box, right? When I draft a message or a letter, it's a message, and I've encrypted it by just putting it into your post box. People may see that there's a letter inside the box, which is fine, but no one will be able to open the letter box to be able to read the message. Only you, having the key, will be able to open the box and be able to read the message. That's the general theme around that. Yeah. I'll okay. I just got a message which says there's some noise in my mic. I'll try to be careful, unfortunately. Yeah, there's maybe the fan noise, but I'm just making sure that my mic picks up my voice easily. That's why. But it causes a lot of disturbance, please, people. Just let me know. I'll either turn off my fan or we can see what we can do. Okay. Right. And now I'll dive into Ethereum. But again, I'll just pause over here and, obviously take a little bit of sip of water and let me know or raise hands if you have any questions to understanding what's happening on the blockchain level, or essentially the question or the theme being blockchain as a platform. Okay, I'm assuming you're all good, right? And again, everyone, please don't hesitate in letting me know if I'm talking too fast or I'm either too slow, because I have been told that I talk a little bit fast and then it's very difficult to catch up. Okay, I guess one more question is going to come up. Okay, I'll sort of proceed and then address this question. Now, Bitcoin, which was introduced in 2008 through a particular Bitcoin paper and then started being mined, or a network started running itself and people started joining the network. There was another blockchain or a blockchain paper or yellow paper or white paper, but some sort of concept paper, which came out in 2015. And that is that was for the Ethereum blockchain. There is a lot of differences. There are a lot of differences today between a Bitcoin blockchain network and Ethereum, and how they're supposed to mine and how they're supposed to sort of join the transactions or add the transaction to block and so on and so forth. A lot of them. But if I go back into 2015 and just comparing between Ethereum and Bitcoin, the one of the most important distinguishing factor which made Ethereum what it is today is the largest, second largest being Bitcoin because of its value, but otherwise the only single largest blockchain for doing a explain it in a little bit more simple terms. Think about the fact that you are using WhatsApp, or think about the fact that you're using Zoom, right? Now, WhatsApp and Zoom have a basic theory that if you send a message or you communicate through voice or video, we will take those bytes, put it into a particular database. It can be in Mumbai or Bangalore or Amsterdam or New York, and then we'll send it to the recipient. Add a little bit masala to it, and let's say that these networks, there is no centralized server which is sitting either in Bangalore, Mumbai, or New York. Each of these laptops which are connected will only be the processing power. So when I turn on the Zoom and you turn on the Zoom, then the network starts. Otherwise, I'm the only guy in the network and the network cannot communicate. And I cannot communicate with them. For example, think about WhatsApp. If I have to communicate with my dad, I need him to open the WhatsApp software on his phone, and I will open the WhatsApp software on my phone. And then through the internet, they will both establish a P2P connection and they'll talk with each other, which means when I send a message, it will directly know that I'm just looking for so-and-so IP address on the network and then going and deliver directly. With that particular network, what really happened is that if you notice online, me and my dad downloaded a software which is called WhatsApp. Bitcoin is the Bitcoin protocol that anyone over here on the call can download right now. Ethereum is the same. Most of the blockchains are the same thing. To be able to run a blockchain, you will have to download what they call the blockchain client, Ethereum client, Bitcoin client. Client being the software that you have to download and just press start, and then it kind of connects or kind of establishes a P2P connection. Ethereum had this idea that if I am asking people to, sort of download the software, why don't I ask them to also process certain commands? As simple as what is 2 plus 2? And the network should be able to answer 4. What is simple as like what is 4 multiplied by 4, or what is the square of 4, and it should reply 16. That's what Ethereum did. Bitcoin didn't have that communication. Bitcoin was like, we are just a network, all of us maintaining what we call the Bitcoin ledger, a ledger of balances of different people, and hence we're just sending Bitcoins to each other. Ethereum said, well, I will give you the ledger, but on top of this, I will ask every single processing power to start responding to certain scripts, commands, or programs. And we'll have a lot of complications around it, which we call the Ethereum virtual machine or the EVM. But basically that EVM is what processes these commands, thus providing the ability for now blockchain to independently on its own now take actions or deliver or sort of process programs or softwares. That essentially is done through what they call the smart contracts. Now, what are smart contracts? If you go into dive into smart contracts again, you'll come figure out it's really complicated, and a lot of things are there, and there's probably be overwhelmed with information. But at the underlying code, it's simple. It's just a manner in which you will communicate with the EVM. Smart contracts are written in multiple languages, Solidity being the highest used language. Approximately 90% of the smart contract code is written in the language Solidity. Second highest being Viper, which I think stands about like 7 other percent, which makes up 97%. And there are, one more exists here and there. But essentially, Solidity is largely the language that everyone uses. Solidity smart contracts do a lot of things. It can be as simple as hello world contracts, which will say, when I click this button, the blockchain should respond hello world. Or if I click this button, it should just tell me what is the time today, or, XYZ. There are a lot of, nuances over here and there, but you get the idea. Solidity basically lets you, me, or anyone today, right now, write a piece of code. Let's say, give me the date of the date when it ends, 15th August, right? But now I will not deploy or sort of put this code, which is say give me the date of India's independence or give me the date, on a particular centralized server. Nowhere. I'm just throwing it on the blockchain, and anyone can go and ask the network. So in the page, just put a smart contract which is supposed to give me the date 15th of August because I'm asking for the date of independence. Who is that? Can you give it to me? And then just click the button and the network will talk. The reason why it is, again, a little huge is because now we are now saying that we don't want these centralized organizations or any server to be able to respond to your instructions. We want a network to be responsible for that. And when we throw this out from 0.1% to a network, the network which has seriously no control on whatever the message is going through, and as such is just a proxy. Think about it. Your script, your software is secure. And that's why it sort of opens up a very big industry, so to say. And people, that's why I'm sort of jumping into doing multiple things over there for people to deploy smart contract, create applications, and so on and so forth, for you to sort of playing and creating applications. And there are a lot of applications, for example, which is known as, well, I forgot the name right now. I think it's Linea. It's a very funny name. Then there is, WhatsApp clone and so on and so forth, which already exist onto the blockchain. Okay, we have one question. When you say 70% nodes, how can you reach 70%? Can you explain what complex applications Ethereum handles? Okay, so first is there's a question when you say 70% nodes can modify the blockchain. How can you reach figure? How can you reach to figure 70%? Okay. Now, this one's very difficult on how you can reach 70% figure, but imagine what really happening is that if I send a message from which says that I'm sending 10 Bitcoin, let's say to my dad, okay, the network is decentralized enough, and hence that will happen. My dad cannot go back in history and say that, no, it was not 10, it was 20 or so on and so forth. But if I am controlling 70% of the ledger, then what really happened is that I will choose which transactions to accept and which transaction to reject, and then hence be able to properly navigate the blockchain according to my whims and fancies. Similarly, I will have the ability to sort of tweak a little bit here and there in the transactions. When I say tweak, in the sense the order of the transactions, and hence again, I will have the ability to manipulate the results that I want. And that's why it's considered that if you have access to 70% of the nodes in the world, which on a blockchain, you really have the ability to crash the blockchain. You can literally turn off, kind of make it very slow or make it very difficult, just block transactions, just sit on them, so on and so forth. One of the other questions is, how can you explain what complex application Ethereum handles? Right. Okay. It's difficult to answer this question because from as simple as lottery contracts or uh, just nothing but time-based contracts that if I've, let's say, put 10 ether and give it out to my dad on 31st of December this year, as simple as that, to very, very complicated applications that if someone wants to take a loan, then take this money, lock it into some other network, on the rewards from there, process at particular interest rate, and then send out the collateral over there. A lot of complicated applications. People use it for NFT, which you're already aware of, but people use it for communicating messages through protocols like WhatsApp and so on and so forth. They also exist. A lot of complicated stuff already is being done on Ethereum. Right. Okay, there's one more question about smart contract. Can you explain in simple? Absolutely. So Kishore, your question about smart contract. We will try to dive. I will try to dive it a little bit more. But there is another session just right after my session, which actually is literally hands-on smart contract development. As much as I would love to talk about theory, but trust me, there's nothing that beats practical. So just hang on to there, and you will see a lot of practical stuff coming along. Okay, I see more questions, but I'm just going to go a little bit further. And actually, this is literally my last slide. And then we can talk about, on-say questions. dApps, or what we call decentralized applications, right? They run, and why we call it decentralized is sort of obvious. Is literally running software on not one particular network, but a lot of servers or a lot of processing tasks talking to each other. That's why it decentralized application. They're just basically applications which let people do very complicated things. I'm lucky to have built a few of them, and a lot of them exist. One nice example that I would like to just highlight is one of my client. They actually use they're creating what we call the competition of TransferWise, or you can think about as Western Union, right? In simplicity, what really happens is that TransferWise is also a network like Swift for sending money from one country to another country. They use their own proprietary money, and that's one of the reasons why you will see a lot of fintech applications being able to raise a lot of money in capital from investors. And that's needed because if, let's say, someone sends money from London to Mumbai, while Swift actually encrypts the message and routes it across a couple of banks to deliver in Mumbai, TransferWise has a P2P connection. It'll say debit the London bank account and credit the Mumbai bank account. And really, money is actually exchange hands locally in those jurisdictions, and then end of the day, they kind of settle it internationally. You can think about it, right? Now, what my client has done is that a lot of so-called wealth is sitting on this decentralized network, and they're kind of creating a hybrid, right? What they're saying that we don't need to deploy capital to be able to do what I need to do this business. I will basically just open up a communication channel between two countries, and they focus between Singapore and Philippines largely. If someone sort of sends across or shoots across dollars between Singapore to Philippines, I'm basically going to talk to the wealth or sort of the value already deployed on blockchain where anyone can exchange, take a loan, which is sort of immediate, settled over there, get the money from the local bank account, and then pay it to the blockchain. So it's kind of done instantly. It's a complicated transaction as such if you dive into, but it's done in a matter of 15 to 30 seconds. And they're basically saying that I don't need to deploy my capital. I can just basically work off the capital which is deployed on the blockchain. So these are the sort of examples of complicated blockchain that already exist today. Web3 is a larger concept, and then blockchain, it is also databases and so on and so forth. But one very good example that I would like to highlight over here is an application known as Huddle01, HUDDLE01, which is actually a competition to Zoom, but it runs on decentralized storage, or what we call the IPFS, or interplanetary file storage system, where essentially every communication between me and you or this entire call will actually be routed through multiples and multiples of computers across the world, and no one having control over the sort of sensory control over the call. So that also exists. Okay. Right. Just taking a couple of questions over here. What decides the value of cryptocurrency if it is decentralized? Avni, honestly, thank you for the question, but theoretically, you'll get a lot of answers from the world, but practically the answer is whatever the market decides, right? I don't want to tell you any jazz answer because sounding cool or whatever, but whatever the market decides, that's what it is. Protocols have a particular mechanism in which they put rules, but if the market is not accepting the rule, then that's what it is. Okay, Pawan's question, how blockchain will be helpful to detect any cyber attack like malware or ransom in real world? Okay, nice question, Pawan. How can blockchain? Okay, thank you, because it's a fantastic question, and this is how it will happen. Imagine a particular cyber attack or a malware. At the end of the day, just softwares which originate from a particular IP address, which is then delivered to the world in different computers to different IP addresses. Let's say if I have a proper ledger, which is basically about blacklisted IP addresses. Now, if I maintain that, which by the way, this sort of already exists, okay, centralized would already exist. People are there which just maintain a list of blacklisted IP addresses. These IP addresses are malicious. They will send viruses or cyber attacks or malwares through the computer and all that. And obviously, these guys are smart enough, they keep changing their IP addresses, and that's another industry altogether. But if I come across and I create a decent ledger where everyone can update in that sense, obviously by following a rule book, and no one has control over that, I'm sort of creating a particular network or a decentralized application, so to say, which is now completely independent, right? So whenever a particular message originates from a particular IP address, this ledger can, which is independent and out of anyone's control, can simply mark it is red or normal. Red flag means it's supposedly coming from a dangerous origin. It can be a malware or a ransom, and hence the recipient must take precaution to be able to read this message. Okay, so that's largely about it. I know I was supposed to be talking for 2 hours, but well, keeping it simple, keeping it not diving into coding, I'm sort of this is what I could land up delivering. And yeah, hello, ma'am. Be there?
Hello.
Yeah. Is my network okay? Can I? Oh, you just went on mute, ma'am. Did you?
I'm already muted. I don't know. Your voice is breaking in between. Very small, but it is breaking.
I'm
Yeah,
so sorry.
so I didn't get what you say.
Right. I'm saying I'm actually done with my presentation half an hour earlier than what I was scheduled to.
Okay. Sorry.
Right.
So, participants, if you have any questions, you can please feel free in raising your hands, and then we can start the second session then after some time. Yeah, so 2 participants have raised hands. Let me see. Durgesh, can you unmute them?
Do I have the ability to unmute them? Oh yeah, I said just see. Okay, let me just click ask to unmute. Let me see. Oh yeah, I could do that. It seems okay. Hey Kishore.
Sir, good morning, sir. Sir, I can't understanding smart contracts, which is self-executing agreements with the predefined conditions. Sir. So, what is that? What is the self-executing agreement, sir?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Kishore. Right. So, okay, let's put it this way. Right. Okay, a lot of scripts in lot of softwares can be otherwise called as self-executing in that by that underlying theme. Essentially, let's say that there is a particular mechanism in which I say that, okay, whenever Kishore sends across to me, let's say 10
Yeah.
Bitcoin, and then I should basically take 5 to myself, and then I must donate 5 into these 2 different charities or whatever it is in 2.5 and 2.5. What really essentially that, that particular code essentially on top of blockchain makes sure is that now no one in the world can actually stop its self-executing factor, right? It could be in a centralized server as well, and what will happen is someone will send and then it'll still do the job. But essentially, if it's under my control, then I can say it's I can stop it, delete it, or whatever. But in the case of blockchain, it is a self-executing, fulfilling, prophecy. No one will be able to control it, and it will be able to deliver that at every given point of time. And that's why, unfortunately or fortunately, testing or otherwise making sure that your smart contracts are accurate, authenticate, and do the correct job in various cases is a very, very important task.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Dipesh.
Hi, Mahesh. Yeah, hi.
See, I was wondering that Bitcoin may not survive if there is no miner in the network. So, what if we automate this mining job?
Do you want to elaborate that? What do you mean by automate?
Automate means a code can do it. There is no need for a person to be a miner. There is automated code block which will automatically do whenever a new request comes for mining.
I think it's already like that. So what essentially it is that, I mean, you and I can become a Bitcoin miner right now, and we don't have to do anything. All you have to do is just download the software and just say start. That's it. It does it automatically. You don't have to do mining, right? Now, if I, let's say, have access to all the AWS servers in the world, and then I kind of write a logic that just spin off new servers across the globe and create nodes or Bitcoin mining network, then what will happen is that network will start seeing the danger, right? And we keep in this public information again. You can start seeing if the network gets concentrated at one place, then a lot of people will make a lot of cry on Twitter and everywhere that the network is getting concentrated, which can actually publicly be a danger. So there's only so much of automation that you would want to put on that.
Hello, sir. I want to ask that can we control the number of nodes in private IPFS network, and how to create private IPFS network?
Okay, I have a question to ask before I answer this. You said private IPFS network. I mean, IPFS by definition is public, so I still don't understand why. What do you mean by private IPFS network? I'm just stretching my imagination. Maybe you want to create a mock IPFS network. Then what really happens is that you just have to download the software, so to say, and there is a IPFS configuration, or for that matter, most of these blockchains have a configuration in which basis that they identify the peer-to-peers into the P2P network. You just change that to only your predefined configuration, and then ask your friend to start up an IPFS network with that predefined configuration. Then you guys will create a IPFS version 2. You can call it private, you can call it whatever, but that's what it is. Yeah, I hope I have answered. If I've not, just unmute yourself and ask again.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yeah, hi.
Yes, sir. I'm Nancy, research scholar, Punjabi University, Patiala. I want to conduct my field is marketing, and I want to check the application of blockchain in marketing. So here are my two questions: that how we can get that we can apply blockchain in that particular field. And my second question is how we come to know that particular platform is or app is using blockchain, and we can get that it is this is fully secure and private.
Okay. So let's break this down, and you've already done 2 questions. How can you apply blockchain to marketing? Marketing is a very large concept, particularly, right? I mean, let's talk about the channels of marketing. Let's talk about Twitter. Let's talk about your Instagram or LinkedIn. These channels are there. Or for that matter, let's say YouTube is a marketing channel, right? These underlying platforms, exist. There are already existing platforms for Twitter, for networks, social networks, and YouTube including, run on decentralized protocol such as IPFS. In this case, you'll need IPFS, by the way, right? And that's one place where they have taken the Web3 ecosystem and applied to an existing industry of Web2 marketing, right? How can you identify it? Honestly, there are two ways. The first, which is the most obvious, is that you will go to that particular this thing and you will find out, oops, they will put it on their landing page. Oh, it is completely on blockchain and so on and so forth, right? I'll just quickly open up my Chrome if I can to get that correct name of my, okay, of the Twitter that already exists, but that's one. Second is that on blockchain actually raised $50 million recently. That's pretty nice. Can't find it. Lens protocol. Yeah. So that's the one of the marketing channels which a lot of people use for communicating decentralized fashion. Now, one of the things that second way in which you can identify that how they use blockchain is in the manner in which you Twitter says that you can log in with your email address and password, or let's say they say you can log in with Google or GitHub account or your Microsoft account or whatever. Lens protocol will actually say that you need to sign in or log in with your wallet address, right? It's a cryptographic identification, so to say. There are tools which actually bridge the also for people like, let's say like me, who sometimes like, I don't want to care about my decentralized identification or hex decimals. So what I need is a platform which actually just connects my Google account to a particular decentralized identity and so on and so forth. So there exist those tools, but you will see they will also give you your decentralized identity number. So let's say that if you want to come and talk to me, I need to have your decentralized wallet address, not a Google address, not a Twitter address, not a Microsoft address. And that's how the second way you can identify it's a completely decentralized protocol. Thirdly, please do your research. I am not surprised that there are tools already existing which say that we're completely decentralized, but they are not. I mean, that's if you're very, very specific how much decentralization is there in the network. Okay, yeah. Okay, I see some questions over here on my chat. I'm just reading there. Is Ethereum scaling what? In Ethereum scaling, what is the role of layer 2 solution? Okay. Very simply put, layer 2 are supposed to be another software or another network which runs, right? Now, essentially what it is that you will say that, why should I trust another blockchain? Think about this way. There are two blockchains, Ethereum and let's say Ethereum, fast Ethereum, whatever, right? And you'll say, why should I trust fast Ethereum and not trust Ethereum 1 or so on and so forth? What layer 2 do they say that we will actually club a lot of things and we'll put it back onto layer 1, which is the Ethereum blockchain. And that's why we layer 2. We only rely heavily on the security of layer 1, which means if everything is secure, the entire network is decentralized under layer 1, then your message on layer 2 is also decentralized and secure enough. That's what layer 2 in principle does. Okay, then I have another question. Blockchain is a synchronized network or asynchronized network? Truth is, it's asynchronized. It synchronizes every now and then, but it's an asynchronized network, which means, because I've been asked, please explain in details, is that every blockchain has what they call the uncle chain or the uncle network. So what really happens is there are nodes spread across the world. And when I send a network transaction or a message, let's say send 10 Bitcoin to my dad. And at the same time, let's say, probably Tom Cruise is sending 10 Bitcoin to Barack Obama, or whatever, right? Nodes in different parts of the world will pick up transaction and will confirm them and again broadcast it to the network. The network then kind of syncs up and comes at one chain that only one of them is first and the other one is second. That happens over a period of time. That's why it's asynchronously, but it then syncs up every now and then. Whenever the asynchronous is there, there's uncle chains. There are two parallel chains which run together and they kind of converge together. Okay, how security of a blockchain network is maintained? Largely, the truth is it is decentralization, right? If you want to maintain a network which is secure enough, cryptography is different, encryption is different, right? They just basically encrypt a particular message and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, we want the database to be secure. You just want more and more and more and more nodes to be able to sort of communicate this thing correctly. Okay. Any mathematical last question I'll probably take? Any mathematical questions or tools that can be used to analyze smart contracts? Sumit, it's a very difficult thing. It's a very difficult thing to answer right now. Smart contracts are very huge in itself as an industry. Smart contract developers get paid a hell lot of amount of money because it's very complicated as such. So it's very difficult to answer your question that go to this tool and you'll be able to analyze. I think there is no one particular tool. There are thousands of tools and they all provide different aspects of blockchain. So it's very, very difficult for me to give you one answer. Cool. I guess that's pretty much it. Right, ma'am?
Yes. Thank you so very much, Mr. Dipesh, on behalf of Asia Connect team and the coordinators, myself and Dr. Neelam Dayal. We sincerely thank you for sparing your time to deliver a lecture here. And we hope the participants are greatly benefited. Participants will be meeting at 12:30 sharp. Please join 5 minutes before the time so that you do not miss anything. We will have another wonderful session by Mr. Sameer Jain, who will start from scratch on what a smart contract is and how you can develop and deploy it on a live test